Good morning to you, middle of the week, Wednesday, August the 12th, 2020. Brandon Hardison, president of Champion Strategies. So it must be 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time because that's the time we have set aside for Hardison'S tips. And before we start, don't forget if you can make it 12 o'clock today is where we do a live and we bring in some of the best to give you their take on what's going on in sales. Today's special guest is Joe Lockhart from Automax. They are an HR/slash training company that assists dealers not only sourcing, but with the interviewing and the initial onboarding. And they've been around for a while, but we'll be talking to Joe to see what some of the changes are as he sees it as he goes around the country. So that's 12 o'clock today for Hardison'S Tips live with our special guest, Joe Locker from Automax. So let's get right to it for today because you're trying to get dressed and I have to get ready. So we're going to still stick with our brothers and sisters that are out doing the key account, major account situation. And we'll pick on this today and tomorrow. Effective sales planning. And the reason why I say that is that most salespeople love to be active, out in their territories, seeing their people, solving problems, putting deals together. This activity orientation is one of the necessities. It's the basic characteristic of an outside sales personality. A day sitting behind a desk, it's not their idea of having fun. It's more like purgatory. Unfortunately, this activity orientation is both a strength and a weakness when we talk to major account, key account people. Much of the salesperson's ability to produce results finds its genesis in the energy that's generated by the activity being out in the territory. It can be a major obstacle for some people, but it can be an advantage. Far too often, salespeople are guilty of going about their jobs in a credo that we most have heard about: ready, shoot, aim. The luxury of this kind of unfocused activity is a casualty, and we as managers know that, especially during this information age. In order to be effective and being focused throughout almost everything you do, activities without forethought and planning is needless and a waste of time, even though the salesperson may have all this energy. The most important part of the job is to plan the time they spend in front of their prospects and customers. I'll say that again. The most important part of the job is to plan the time they spend in front of their prospects and customers. Of all the different parts of their job, there's nothing more important to think about, nothing more important to plan than that one thing. For most salespeople, if they were to make a list of everything they do in the course of a day, and then consider each of these items on a list, they'd likely discover they're almost that they can do something to improve that concept for them, the territory, and the company. For example, calling for appointments cheaper or better than salespeople. Yes, if we're conditioned in the process to do that. Make easily checks on back orders. And once again, I'm trying to fill this time during this coronavirus. So there's things you can do. Just check on back orders. Fill out a price quote, write a letter, develop a sampler, cheaper. Something that's going to keep you prepared for when it's time for you to get in front of that decision maker. In fact, it's likely that the only thing a salesperson can do that no one else in the company can do cheaper or better with their instincts with the customer is getting prepared for that face-to-face interaction. Because when it comes to that face-to-face interaction, no one can do it better than a salesperson. If it weren't for that, companies would have little use for salespeople. So the face-to-face interaction with your customer is the core value that you bring to the company. Yet most studies indicate that the average outside salesperson only spends about 25 to 30% of their time during the work week actually face to face with the customer. So, in light of that, doesn't it make sense to spend some time planning, preparing to make that 25, 30% of your week the most optimal that you can make it? Well, of course it does. Well, that means we have to start planning on principles. How can we master the practices and make it realistic for you to follow? So here's the first thought. Good decisions require good information. And it's the information age. Remember, you have the means, the resources, all the tools you need to take your goals, sketch it out, and be prepared to play when you go face to face. If you're working from home, you can still do the same thing, but you want to know about the nature of the grounds that are going on with that customer. Now that you have the technology, you can find those things out. Also, we can find out things from home that we usually can't get when we're trying to get to a decision maker and maybe getting to a procurement officer or someone else on another floor when we need costs or specs. Usually over the phone, you can get these things, or you may find them as free as public knowledge. The same principle applies when it comes to home sales, when it comes to you going up and down the street. Good information you can get with technology. It may be that your company can provide you some assistance in getting this information, or maybe not. But if you're going to work with good information, you must be one who collects that information, or at least has an idea of where to start the research. That means you must create systems, collect, store, and use the information when you have it to be helpful for you when you get in front of that decision maker. Rather, looking at it from a negative situation, let's go positive, dynamic, that I'm practicing, I'm prepping for when it's time for me to get face to face with that decision maker. Outside salespeople, you're not going anywhere. Now, the ones that are not taking the opportunity, and the numbers will reflect that, well, it is what it is. But if you have a plan and you plan your work and you use the technologies, yes, outside salespeople will always still be needed. Now, if you got something out of it, we'll do part 2 of that tomorrow. But once again, don't forget 12 noon today, live Hardison'S tips with our special guest. I thought you forgot him, but Joe Larkin, yes, from Automax. And so for the folks in the automotive space, they've heard of Automax, but let's find out what they're doing today. So there may be some tidbits that you can pick up from that, and we do it for you every Wednesday at 12 noon. So until then, like always in parting, go out and make it a champion.